Write your name, the country that you're joining us from, and your role or connection to libraries. Okay, shall we go ahead and jump in? All right, so my name is Megan Lee, and I'm a librarian and a facilitator with Bibliothèques Sans Frontières. We also have with us today Claire Elouin, who is the project manager and LiBri coordinator with BSF. If you want to say hi, Claire.
Hello.
And finally, we have with us Bogdan Penkaski, who's joining us from Poland and the Huba Foundation.
Hi, good to be here.
So, for those of you who need subtitles, these are the instructions about how to see them. To activate subtitles in Teams, please click on the More button, which is located in the meeting toolbar on the top right-hand corner of the screen, next to the camera and the microphone button. Choose Language and Speech, then select Show Live Captions. The next step is that the subtitles banner will appear at the bottom of the screen, below the camera views. On the right-hand corner of that banner, please click on Language Settings. Then, a language setting page will open. Please leave the spoken language to English, or else it will mess up the translation, and go ahead and choose the language of your preference that you would like it to be translated into. Any questions or problem, please write to us in the chat. So, our agenda for today, we're going to finish this introduction quite rapidly and go into Bogdan's presentation on the theme of communication. Then we'll close with some housekeeping, an evaluation, and a save the date. Our norms of participation for today's webinar are as follows. Number one, non-judgment. Thank you for being here. We want everyone to feel welcome and that everyone's opinions are valued and you're free to share them. As you do so, we would like others not to be judgmental in their responses. Second, participation. Thank you to those of you who have already participated. You've written in the chat. We love that, okay? So even though we're in South Africa, Portugal, all over the place, we can feel connected by participating. We can do reactions, we can give a heart, we can clap, anything. If you want to turn on your camera, you're welcome to do so. But number three, confidentiality. Please keep in mind that this event is being recorded and it will be shared. So if you do turn on your camera, just know that this webinar will be presented on different resources within the LiBri project and shared. So just keep that in mind. If you share information about your library setting, make sure that you're not giving away confidential information about your institution. And number four, turn off your microphone to avoid echo. We kindly request. Thank you very much. So quick icebreaker, that participation, we want to hear from you, both. Let's get a sense of who we have. So how can good stories help us shape the world? Please respond in the chat, or if you want to use your microphone, go ahead and do so. You can raise your hand. How can good stories help us shape the world? Big question. Thank you, Karen. I see a response motivating and inspiring others to do the same. Nice. From Claire, it can help us highlight success. From Marie, they can help us feel connected and empathetic towards each other. Marcia, serve as role model for others. Nice. Ooh, Amelia's also reiterating the idea of being inspirational. Anybody else before we move on and jump into our presentation? Thank you to those of you who have already written in the chat. We love to hear from you. Okay, so Bordon, I'm going to let you take it away now. We're so glad to have you. Thank you so much. For those of you, if any of you were in Warsaw, there was this conference during the workshops. This was one of the topics, was communication, and we're going to be going over that today so that everyone feels empowered to have the tools necessary to utilize communication as a strategy to promote their library, an initiative, their nonprofit, whatever it is. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, great to be here. I will be sharing my screen, and as I mentioned multiple times, I'm not very fluent in Microsoft Teams, but okay, this one. So please let me know if you can see my presentation right now.
We can see it. Looks great.
All right. I said that it's great to be here 2 times already, and I say it for the third time because this is for me this is a really a unique experience to talk with representatives of library communities around the world. I over this particular project, but since I have kids, my kids are 9 years old. They had a birthday a couple days ago. I learned to appreciate libraries as an institutions and community builders, and actually their potential to shape the world around us. And so being like this small part of this process, and maybe giving you some food for thought today is a privilege. So thank you very much for having me. My name is Bogdan Pękacki. I'm a director of Huba Foundation, based in Warsaw, Poland. I've been I've been doing comms work my entire life. I was 5 when people asked me who do I want to be, and I said that I want to be a journalist. And I became a journalist 20 years later. Been journalist and a media worker and editor and other things in the media world for 10 years. And after 10 years, I took all those experiences and skills and try to do something even more relevant, I hope, with that. And I moved to the civic sector, and I work with mostly environmental organizations, such as Greenpeace Poland. I work with Client Earth and multiple others in Poland right now. I'm running my own foundation that helps others to change the world, basically. I will be talking about communications today, and as I said, this has been my entire professional life, but this is just my experiences and my thoughts structured somehow. But like, feel free to take whatever is useful from what I will be saying today, and absolutely feel free to leave. Don't bother about anything that is not useful. This is mostly, I will be sharing a framework that I've been using in a communication work in the environmental movement. I think this might be useful to what you're doing in this project, but I don't know the experiences of your work that well. And definitely communication is very like geographically oriented, geography oriented, geographically influenced. So in your countries, in your communities, this might work. This might work entirely. Part of this might work, but parts of it will just feel useless, and that's totally okay. Please write down your questions. This is this is a webinar, so I will be doing most of the talking today. But we'll have a space for questions and answers at the end of the presentation. I'll be happy to answer all of them. And there was a request to turn off your microphone to avoid echo, but if you want to speak up, just remember to turn on your microphone. This is also a remark to myself. In the preparation phase of this meeting, I kept forgetting to do that. So this number 4 guideline is basically for me mostly, because people actually know that already after so many years of online work. Well, and as I said, I will be talking about communications and the stories. And during the icebreaker, there was a question: why do we, how do we use good stories? How the good stories can shape us, shape the world around us? And all of the answers you gave were to the point. And like, no surprise here, because I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, because like, with whom is better to talk about stories and how do we need them than with people that work with libraries or in libraries. But I also think I can add something to your points about the stories in the business of changing the world, actually, around us. Because I honestly believe that that the stories are what makes us humans. Like, this is maybe this is just my imagination, but I imagine that that's where we started to be humans, when we gather around the fire and we told each other stories. And we've been doing this for at least a couple of thousand years, since Iliad and Odyssey. But even before that, you know the story better than I do. And up until now, in the age of digital communication and this noise around us, I think that this feeling of being together and telling each other what do we went through, or what have we heard, or maybe some fantasy stories. This is something that connects us more than anything else. And so we have to, especially in the projects and in the work that that we're all trying to do, when we want to include as many people as possible in the change that we're shaping. The stories are critical. Also, because I think that it's hard to imagine a story, a change in the world without a story around it. You can think about this the other way around. If we don't tell a story about the change hasn't happened. Or can you imagine a change that has happened in the world for better, that was untold, that no one noticed, no one told the other person about it? I think that without this component of the change simply doesn't happen. And as I said before, I'm doing communication work for over 20 years right now, as a journalist and as a member of a civic society. And sometimes this work feels pointless. It doesn't change. It seems like nothing changes, or changes but for worse. But I learned over time that many of the effects of good communication work, of telling good story to in the public debate, is not visible. It's not something that that you can clearly describe as a win or as a success. But if you keep doing this, if you keep telling your story, if you're doing it in a convincing and engaging way, you will eventually notice, and this is my basic experience in this line of work, that the resistance for your sometimes radical ideas, radical in a sense that they are not mainstream, not that they are extreme themselves. They sort of are much easier to push because less people resist to them, to your proposal, to your offers, to your ideas. And it's not like everyone will jump on board and will, sail with you on your cruise, but they won't interfere with your cruise, and they won't be actively opposing what you're trying to do. And this is priceless, and we will be talking more about that today. Because the story of telling a story to people creates what can be called a common sense. So this middle of the public debate. I showed you Martin Luther King in one of the previous pictures, and if you take a look at his story and how the civil rights movement in the United States in the 60s was shaped, what they were telling to the public was considered radical, and most of the people would, even if they sort of agreed with this basic concept that all humans are equal, people would perceive this as a radical concept. And today is, I don't know, 50, 60 years after that, almost, after Martin Luther King. And this debate is that the common sense, the middle, is completely in a different place. So racial segregation is not common sense. It was in the 50s and the 60s, and this has happened through telling stories as well. And also in Poland, we know this, I think, better than some, but you know that as well, that there's this vacuum of in the public debate. So if we don't tell the story, someone else will, and very often these are the people that they don't tell good stories. They tell stories of hate. They tell stories of exclusion. They tell stories of fear, of all of those things that are basically hurtful and damaging to people and to societies. And unfortunately, uh, people that tell those stories are very effective in doing so. And whenever there's a space for their story, they will enter this space and try to tell their story. And in the context of that we'll be discussing today, so about people having the experience of migration, this is in this issue, this is very, very visible. And that's my basic argument. Like, I could finish right here, and I think I could, or at least I hope I could convince some of you that this comms work, communication work, telling stories to the to people around us is basically sine qua non element of whatever we're trying to do. But let's dive deeper into details of why and how to do it. I was asked to follow a case study for this webinar today, and I will be referring to this, what you can see on your screen right now, quite often for the next 60 minutes or so. But let's imagine a public library in the mid-sized European city, and library, as this is experience of many of you, has partnered with an NGO and the municipality, and they started to think how to respond to growing tensions around third country national settlement in the neighborhood, or so people with the experience of migration. And this is not very unique case study. This could happen. This is easily imagined. This could happen anywhere when the hate speech and hostile narratives on social media are getting stronger. Some of the discriminatory behavior toward newcomers in public spaces is occurring, and the third country nationals, national residents, have this feeling of insecurity, and we somehow feel responsible for that, and we think like we have to do something about it, and that's why how the many joint community programs has started. And as I said in the beginning, libraries are such a great place to do so. So just imagine this yourself in this situation. How could we work around it, and what are the key challenges? This is one of the basic challenges that TCN residents feel unwelcome and safe, but also the silent majority around it, around this the settlement is becoming as skeptical and disengaged. So the library, the partnership, the TCN residents are left alone in that, and also in such cases very often, because of political reasons, local authorities tend to step out of the at least in a visible way, out of the program, and so we plan a joint community program, and we plan some activities such as cultural and intercultural events, some language exchanges, storytelling workshops, community dialogue sessions, and right now we have to think about how to communicate to the community around us, and how to make, as I said before, a good story out of this. So we have a feeling that we're not talking to an empty room, but we rather talk to people in the community in a way that they get interested, engaged, less skeptical, or mobilized to act, and how to do it. This is like 100 years ago, and because we know like our cause is good, but we are somehow not able to convince people around us that this makes sense. So all of a sudden we sit down in this partnership, and we someone says we need a communication strategy. We need a strategic approach to this, because the activities themselves are not enough. We need to strategize, we need to organize, and we need to tell a good story. And then we start to ask ourselves, but what is a comms strategy? Like, how this sounds a little bit scary, and with the communication work, there are like two aspects of this always, because everyone knows everything about comms. Everyone knows how to communicate, so everyone is a comms person. But on the other hand, many people get scared of doing a comms work. Like, they don't. I would hear very often from people very engaged in their field saying, "But I'm not a comms person. I'm not a communicator. I'm not. This is not my field. I want to focus on the merits." And the answer is like, we need a strategy. We need a basic plan on how to act and how to tell a good story. And again, this is a very basic concepts that I'll be sharing today. And I think when it comes to comms strategy, we can think of those for 4 elements of it. So we need to say we very often use term audiences or target groups, but basically we need to know who are we talking to. We need a narrative, we need a story, and we need to come up with one. We need an action plan. This is always very often something that people start with, but on my list it's number 3 because action plan can be is much more effective if we have previously defined our audiences and create some sort of narrative. And then we need some sense of security when doing comms work, because maybe something bad will happen, we'll be attacked, or we'll be exposed to very heavy hate speech, and we need an answer on how to respond to such situations in a way that is not damaging to us, and this is and it's quite productive, because I would just read it. Communication is not about telling people what to do. It's not or telling people what to think, but it's about creating a story in which they can see themselves, so that they see as a part of your story, and going through those 4 simple steps and think about each of them can help you not only do the comms work itself, but I would say also feel secured in doing so, and not being scared of it, or not being I don't know, anxious about failing or telling something that is not supposed to be told or anything. So it's also about the comms strategies, about the work itself, but also about feeling comfortable in doing such work. So let's start with audiences, and there are many ways of talking about audiences or target groups. I don't like the term target groups very often, because very often it has this association with aiming. So you have to aim at the target group, and I don't think that's how the communication works at all. I mean, if you treat people as target groups and you aim at them, you will never build a relation with them, and therefore your comms work won't be very effective. So over time, I've been using many different frameworks for creating comms strategies, and I found this very simple one the most useful. So rather than think about people around us in terms of their age, their gender, or other criteria by which we segment the audience, very often we can divide the entire landscape of people and stakeholders around us into those 3 groups, which is allies, opponents, and neutrals. And if you think about it, this basically covers everyone. Like, you could position anyone in one of those segments. Some people are your allies, some people are your opponents, and most of the people will be just neutral to yourself. And if you think about the stakeholders around you in that way, you would notice very quickly that to each of those groups you talk in a different way. You need different arguments, you need different emotions, you need different words, you need different stories when talking to neutrals and when talking to your allies. They require different approach, and on the first if the first impression is that this may make your work a little bit more complicated, but in fact it makes it much more easier, because you just follow very simple script to each of these groups, and it gives you like very simple answers really quickly, and you don't have to think too much. about strategy and approach. You just realize when there is when you're talking to the to your ally, you would be using different metaphors, different language, different stories, ergo different messaging strategies. Each time in each of this in each of these cases, because with allies we don't need to educate them, they're already our allies. We need to mobilize them, we need to make them act, but with neutrals we need to educate them. We need to, sometimes neutrals are called movables, and we want to move them. We want to take them out of their neutrality, and at least some of them, and make them join our cause and do something about it. And this is different than with allies. And then opponents is a whole other story. I'll be talking a little bit more in a moment about that, but very often in the communication work, we waste our resources, our energy, our attention span on talking to the opponents, when in fact the allies and neutrals are, first of all, much bigger group, and second of all, much more important group. But we're being distracted by opponents, and we sort of feel like we need to address address whatever they're saying. And following this very simple framework, let's talk a little bit about our allies. Allies I define as people that, to an extent, on a different level, but they agree with us. So we don't need to convince them. We don't need to tell them our job is important. We don't need them. We don't need to tell them that this particular issue that we're working on, tensions growing around the community program for TCN residents. We don't need to tell them that this is something that is this is something worth caring about. But very often with the allies, we have the situation in which they are allies, but they don't act on that. So our job when talking to them, when doing our comms work, will be to make them act. And actually, in the case of your work and and library as a community center, I think I was discussing this with other experts, colleagues of mine. I asked them a question because this is I think a very important, very difficult question. What the library is supposed to do, what the librarian is supposed to do when they are being under attack, they are being a victim of hate speech. How do they defend themselves? And one of the answers I got stuck with me, and it was that the libraries and the librarians shouldn't defend themselves. They should be defended by others. They should be protected. It's not necessarily your job to fight the hate speech around you, but to do so, like, you need allies, and you need them ready to act and ready to defend. So I would suggest that you don't think about allies as your audience, as someone you can talk to, but think of them as a force that can be unleashed when mobilized, and they can act on behalf and stand with you when need them. And with allies, there is one very nice thing about them. It's good to have allies. It's not good if we talk only to our allies. We leave other groups on the bench. But with the allies, we usually know them. We know who they are, and we usually, although this might change, it might be different in different cases, we very often know where they are and how to talk with them. This is, to an extent, the simplest part of the communication, but at the same time, if you spend if you spend your time talking on what should they think and educate them, they don't need that. You're just wasting your time. You need to think how to mobilize them, but also think that some of the allies are hidden from you. In this case study that we're talking about today, maybe local businesses that financially benefit from having TCN residents in the community. They haven't revealed themselves as your allies, but you have to just give them an opportunity to reveal themselves. So, and if you're planning your activities, some of their activities can be planned in a way that people show up, and you're surprised that they show up and they prove to be allies. But and in that way, you have to always, when talking about communication work, you have to think about channels, and with allies it's the easiest thing because they are the ones who follow your social media. They are the ones who come to your events. They are the ones who read your newsletters. They are the ones who participate in volunteer networks. So in most of them will be really easy to find. But as I said, if you start using the same language as to them with them as with everyone else, they won't be very responsive to it because their motivation is usually different, and you have to understand and you have to talk to them and with them about their motivation, and you have to try to understand what motivates them to act. Is it the beliefs that or values they share with you, or they have some positive experiences, or as in this example that I mentioned, local businesses, maybe they have personal or financial interest in creating a community in which TCN residents are feeling safe, and they actually want to come here and work, become part of the workforce. And if you know those motivations, then you can address those motivations when talking to them. Also, if your allies are not acting, they are not, they're just stagnant and disengaged. You have to think why they are not acting, and there are many reasons for that. And I would encourage you to never judge people for that, but actually think of what is the block that stops them from acting. And those might be, again, very different things. Maybe they don't know what to do. They think like, I need to do something, but I don't know what to do because I've never had an opportunity to act on that. I've been like, you keep telling me this is a problem. We don't want hate speech in our community. I know that, but what can I do about it? Do I have a clear call to action here? Or sometimes they feel secluded. They feel like they are there's too little of them, that the majority is against them. They feel separated and also helpless. Like very classical example is in my work of climate protection and environmental protection. This is very standard. My action won't make a difference. This is you have to somehow work with that attitude, and also very often people are very busy and they don't have time for acting. So maybe the proposal, your story is too long to read, or your action that you're proposing that they can take is too time consuming. You have to understand that those are different situations in each case. And then think of what is your offer, because if you keep giving your allies things to do, and this is the only thing that you're doing, this is one-sided relationship. Like, think of what they are getting from being your ally. I don't think it's a it's a transaction. I think it's a relation that we have to build with them, and to build a relation with allies, we need to. This cannot be one-sided relation. So we just take and we say this is very important. You have to act on that. You have to do that. Why are you not acting? Not stay at home. Don't be indifferent. We all keep saying that, but we sometimes forget about giving something in return to our allies. The very, very important thing. And taking this universe of challenges with allies, because as I said, they are in a way the easiest group, but that doesn't mean they're the easy group to talk to or to talk with or to build a relation with. Like you have to be precise, especially if your number of your allies is limited. You have to like use the full potential of this force that you're creating with them. And I'm just giving 4 simple tips here, and one of them I already said, I think a couple of times. Don't inform them, engage them and mobilize them. Don't say we launched a project. Don't say that there's a problem. Don't say our TCN residents are facing a situation in which they feel insecure. They sort of know that you have to give people something, your allies, you have to give them something to do. Very simple things like share this post, or something more complicated, come to the meeting, or even more complicated, talk to your local representative, or, which is for many people the hardest part, talk to 3 people and convince them, share the information with your family. This is something that always works with allies better than just informing them. If like we do when working with allies, many of us do lots of thanking, but we very often thank just for being there. So thank you for your support. I mean, it's nice to say to hear thank you, but many of our allies, if they hear thank you for the impact you've made, like in thanks to you 25 people participate in the meeting, this is much more effective in that gives them this feeling of being impactful and being agent and actually creating change. The together language is very often. I sometimes listen to podcasts, and many podcasts say to their supporters, thank you for making this, thank you for letting me do my job. So thank you for being my supporter. But I always think that the best communication, and some of the podcasts are doing this, they say thank you for making this podcast with me, or thank you for that we can do it together. This is a very small change in the language that can make a tremendous difference in how allies perceive their agency and their participation in your projects. And also you have to, with allies, they want to feel special, and you have to appreciate their individuality, especially their individual competence. And if you spend some time on understanding what's their motivation, what's their blockage, and you approach them individually, some groups, some individual people, this will give them an energy, and this is the way you should. If you engage with them in that way, this will very quickly see a very positive difference in how they react and how engaged they are, because they also need some gratitude, like personal gratitude from that project. So yeah, that's about allies. Again, the easiest group out of all 3. Not maybe the easiest. Maybe the opponents are the easiest. I will get back to that in a second. But this that doesn't mean that you just have to treat them as your simple workforce that just do things for you. Yeah, and I said the allies are the simplest one, but right now I'm thinking that the opponents are the simplest one, because they're very loud and they very often take our attention out of from us, and we spend tons of energy on and it's very often the energy wasted because we will never convince them. It's not our job to convince them. You can think of them as a distraction, but also those who I define as opponents are not the ones that have different opinions than us, because that's okay. But if we're talking about the change in the world, and that's the subject of our conversation today, they are, for whatever reason, against the change. And I define opponents as those who benefit from status quo. Or politically or financially or maybe morally sometimes, but usually it's not that. They have some interest in not in not letting the change happen. And what we can do is always we can expose that. We can expose the corruption. We can expose their lies. We can expose their bad will or ill will. That's how you say in English. But we don't need to expose this to them. We need to expose this to our allies and the neutrals. And I said before, if they attack you, make sure there's someone to defend you. Like, never stand alone. And that's why the allies are so important. And again, with the opponents, the rule of thumb would be you can ignore them. Like, you really can. And as I said, I've been working with Greenpeace, I've been working with Client Earth when those opponents seem very powerful sometimes in my work. And I guess in your work, very often the opponents seem, if not powerful, then at least noisy and influential. And the truth is they're not. And this simple rule of thumb: if you don't know what to do, ignore them. I think that works in much more cases that you can imagine. So, and using my own advice, I will ignore opponents for the rest of this presentation. I will talk a little bit more about the neutrals. Sometimes they're called movables, so they can go either way. They can sometimes join you. They can sometimes join the opposition, or they can agree with you, or they can agree with the opposition. And they all around us. They are the silent majority. And in the term silent majority, there are two words here. One is they're silent, so we don't hear from them. We hear a lot from our allies. We hear even more from our opponents. But the neutrals, the one in the middle, are very often very quiet. They don't comment on social media. They don't send letters. They don't go to the local journalists, and they don't speak up. They just there. They're listening. They're very sometimes very carefully listening, but they are not. They don't speak up. And also, the majority component of this term is important, because we often forget about that because they are silent, but most of the people are in the middle. They are not our allies, but they are not our opponents. And that's why, because there's so many of them, they are simply sometimes the most important out of all those out of these three groups. And sometimes it takes years to move them, but that's what I was saying in the beginning, that in comms work, in changing the world in general, sometimes there are no quick wins, but eventually the movables move, and then the miracles happen. Those are two examples from Poland. I won't when the movables, neutrals moved, and I won't dive too deep into that, but those are probably one of the two most defining moments of modern history of Poland. And one is when the neutrals started to install the solar panels on their roofs. It's we've been fighting as an environmental climate movement many years for the renewable energy sources to become part of the energy system, and we fought, and we always felt like we're losing. But then one year, people just started installing those solar panels, not because they agreed with us, but because they made a decision for themselves, and that changed the entire energy mix, a Polish coal dependency, and all of that things that are very dear to any climate movement member, but it wasn't the allies, it wasn't the opponent, it was the people in the middle and their personal decisions that changed the energy mix in Poland, which right now is completely different. It was even 5 to 10 years ago. And the other one is this mass mobilization that happened in Poland in called Black Protest. This was when the abortion ban was not introduced, but made much more strict, and this was a situation. This wasn't a radical. Movement on the street. Those were all the people, mostly women, but not only, so-called neutrals usually, but movables. And if you've been in Poland at the time and you felt the energy that was coming from this millions of people on the street, you would know what I mean. And probably you've had those moments in your countries, as well. And yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about neutrals, and in order to do so, I want you to meet Marek. Marek is a friend of mine, and I'm no perfect. As in one of my imperfections is that I go to the football games every once in a while, which is a suffering, but I still keep doing that. And sometimes I go with Marek there. And if you have ever a chance to meet him, you would think of him as let's say, a good lad, like a good person. Like if he joined this room together, and he would be joining you here today, and you would hear him talking and engaging with you, you would think of them as a good person. But he's just simply very busy. He's working for as a social media um, manager in one of the humanitarian organizations. But he's a husband. He thinks about building a house. He's a father. All of those activities, volunteers to work with children, volunteering to work with children. This all takes a lot of his time. So he's not very engaged in the issues that are important to me, such as environmental protection, climate, and energy sector. He doesn't know much about that. He's not very politically involved. But every once in a while, he would come to me and ask me something about the issues that I care about. And for me, Marek is a perfect example of a neutral person, something that is not indifferent towards something that I care about, but he doesn't have time, he doesn't have competence, he's not involved in those issues as much as I want everyone to be. But he would come to me every once in a while and, for example, ask me, there's an election coming, whom should I vote for if the climate is such an important issue? And when I'm thinking about Marek and see him as a neutral, I realize that to many issues, I am a neutral. It doesn't mean that I'm stupid. It doesn't mean that I'm uninformed. It doesn't mean that I don't care. It's simply because I don't care about every issue there is in the world. These are important issues, but I'm very involved, very engaged in part of this work, but I'm not engaged and involved with everything. And I think all of you know a person such as Marek, someone that is not from your bubble, that is not your ally, that is not your opponent, but someone that you can talk to for a very brief period of time, because he has other issues to attend to. And but with Marek, when you talk to him, you actually slowly start to shape the world around you, because the Mareks around us are the ones who are very often defining common sense and changing. And as I said before, who wins common sense, that person wins everything. But the risk with Marek is, with Mareks of this world, is that he won't come to me very often. He will come to me every year, every 2 years, and he will be talking about important issues, important from my perspective, for a little bit. But most of the time we could talk about other things. But remember, he could also come to your opposition. He could engage with someone that says something different. In the case study that we're using for this webinar, if someone is engaging him in a conversation about safety of the neighborhood, how the TCN residents create an unsafe environment for children, Marek could say, that's a point I have to take into consideration. That's actually kind of makes sense. So engaging with Marek is very very important. Also because the decision makers around us that are making the decisions, the politicians, local politicians, national politicians, very often they are Mareks themselves, but always they fight for Mareks. Marek's opinion is the most important one, because Mareks of this world are the swing state during the elections, and they very often define the outcome of the elections. If you're working with media, remember, most of the journalists are Mareks. They are not very interested in your topic, but they're interested in a good story, and they can engage with you for a very short period of time, and you have to use this opportunity. And because we are so focused on talking to our allies, we are so focused to responding to what our opponents are doing, we very often ignore Marek. So we ignore the main battle of the narrative, the main story battle that exists. And again, our opposition won't ignore them. They will be talking. They will be using every opportunity to talk with Marek and try to convince him that the migration people from abroad are damaging to society, or should be deported, or whatever the agenda of our opposition is. The one thing that I also want to mention about Marek is that they are not the ones that come to you. So your Facebook page, your website, your newsletter, your events are not the places where you can find Marek. It's not like Marek wakes up every morning and thinks about where should I find some information about climate? Where should I find some information about immigrants? Where can I have a free evening. I want to come to the library event about on language exchange. This is not how Marek operates. He's involved, but he's not involved in your programs, in your actions. So you have to proactively go and look for people like Marek, and there are many places that you can do it. Local online groups here. Facebook is still very useful, despite the fact that many people are not using Facebook anymore. Many are still, don't get me wrong, but in terms of local groups, Facebook is still the thing. Local media, local radios. Sometimes this is how you can reach the neutrals, the movables, all the public spaces in your community, in your neighborhood. Not the posters in the library, but the posters in the cafes, in shops, public transport stops, all of those places. Remember, Marek won't come to you. You have to go out and reach him. Local events, markets, festivals, sometimes schools and parents meetings, depending on your context of your work and your access to those to these events. And sometimes sport clubs. I mean, remember, my particular Marek is a football fan, so that's where I can meet him. But people are participating in those events, and this is a place where you can talk to them very, very often. When we talk to Mareks of this world, the window of opportunity is very short. It's very small, and we have to use it to the best of our abilities. Here, we have to be clear. We have to be to the point. We have to be very precise, and we cannot waste too much time on context. We have to be to the point. We have to think about common sense and Marek's relations, Marek's interest in this, the case of local sport events. This is something that is using Marek's personal interest, but if he, in an example of the rooftop revolution, the solar revolution that happened in Poland, there was a personal interest, the financial interest of the neutrals that was in play. For Marek's, very often we don't have to pretend that we are someone else. We have to just be ourselves, and we have to talk the truth. We have to talk from the identity, and very often they will appreciate it. Please, when talking to neutrals and movables, never patronize, never moralize, never say this is good, this is bad, this doesn't make sense. And many of you are probably parents, and so you know when someone tells you you're a bad parent, you should be doing something else. Your natural reaction would be to shut down and not to respond to that. This is not the way we talk to neutrals. We don't say that they are good people, they are bad people, or good people do that, bad people do that. We have to use different arguments, and we have to relate to their daily experience. We have to be close to what they are experiencing in their lives. Anyway, we don't, like in the climate debate, the argument about disappearing Micronesia would never work with Marek. This is something that is out of his experience. We have to think about something that touches him personally in his personal life, and relations with DCN residents in the local community is very often an experience of their personal life, and we have to refer to that, not to the argument you have to be a good person, but your life can be easier if we can include the everyone in our community in many of the conversations that you're having. And there's a simple script when talking to neutrals, and this is very easy thing to follow. And I'm using this framework of shared values, solution, and problem. Very often when I'm preparing someone to give an interview, or when I'm preparing an article, or even a big strategy, I would use this framework of shared value, solution, and problem to create a very simple narrative. The important thing about this framework is that we have to use all three corners of this triangle. If we talk only about two of those things, or God forbid, one of those things, that's never enough. If we talk only about problem, that doesn't work. If we talk only about solution of the problem, we talk to our bubble. We don't talk up to the neutrals. And this is critical to use all of those three elements in your communication. Share values. That's probably the simplest part, but this is something that helps a lot, because this creates a familiarity and bond, and it also creates a communication situation in which this person that we're talking to, the neutral, is already caring about, and this is basic of this is not talking about what we care about, but about what we and the person that we're talking to cares about at the same time. And the examples of shared values are, I think, universal: safety and stability, care for quality of life, responsibility and professionalism, and fairness and care for the future. Those are one of the examples, and we're using those shared values in our narratives, because when talking to Marek, when talking to neutrals, it's not about winning the argument. It's about making him feel that this is his interest and something that he already shares with us. To give an example how we can frame in our case study shared values: everyone deserves to feel safe and welcome in our neighborhood. This is hard.
Hey, Bodan. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt. I just wanted to notice you there is 10 minutes left. So for you, just for you to know. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. When we get to know our neighborhood, our neighbors, our community becomes stronger. In our town, we always had valued respect and fairness, or we can all agree that the safety and stability sometimes is something we all need. Very simple concepts that will make Marek nod and say, "Yeah, I could agree with that. That makes sense." Let's talk more about what to do about that. It's not it's a theoretical concept, but I'm open to have this discussion. And then we can move to a problem. Remember, this doesn't. I mean, I'm talking in this order: shared problem, shared values problem, solution, but that's not how it has to be. It can be different order. It's not something is more important, less important. Problem. I mean, I'm from Poland, so I'm very good about talking about problems, but always defining a problem in a way that can be solved by what you're doing, or you can do with Marek, is a key thing, because if someone, it's easy to frame the problem as there's a problem of safety. We have to remove the TCN residents from our community. This is very simple. And we have to define our problem in opposition to counter that. So, for example, there's a problem with language, or I'll give you an example in a second. But by defining a problem, we already are defining a solution. Stay close to people's experiences when defining a problem in your communication work. So don't use abstract examples from someone else, but make this about their experiences. Again, never moralize. And remember, people have these emotions around immigrants and about the challenges, how their community is changing, and don't try to say there's nothing to be afraid, because the answer would be, but I am afraid, and you're telling me this is not valid. So you have to, when talking about problem, you have to accept people's emotions. You don't have to make them stronger or inflate them, but you definitely cannot belittle them. Some examples, how to define a problem in our case study. When people don't know each other, misunderstandings can grow. Lately, we have seen more tensions and hurtful comments in our community. Language barriers can make simple interactions in our neighborhood harder. Online discussions about our neighborhood have sometimes become hostile, or about 1 in 10 people in our town. This is a data we can always use when defining a problem. We're born outside the EU, and many say the hardest part at first is not knowing anyone. That's how we define a problem. And when Marek sees that, he can feel like, yeah, this is something I've noticed as well. This is something that really seems as a problem, but it's not framed in a way that makes him completely detached from the situation. And then solution. Again, I'm from Poland, so I very often forget about solutions. And this is for very many NGOs, many organizations, many groups I've worked with. This is very often the case. We talk about problem, we don't talk about solutions, and we have to keep remembering about that. And when talking about, like, you offer solutions, very often the whole program that we're discussing is about finding a solution. So it's easy to talk about that. But when talking about solutions, you have to talk about them in a way that it's actually changing the reality of people. This is actually solving the actual problem that you defined. And also, when talking about solution, always leave something that the person can do. Share a post, talk to a person, read this pamphlet, come to a meeting. Something, a small action that people can do. If you don't give them that, they will just nod, and that's the end of their involvement. But if you, the same as with allies, you have to create an opportunity for people to engage. Obviously, for the neutrals, the entry level should be much lower. Some examples: when we know our neighbors by name, everyday situation in our neighborhood feel easier. Come to the next community coffee at the library. When people sit at the same table and talk, tensions usually go down. Join the community dialogue next week. When newcomers practice language with neighbors, it becomes easier to connect. Sign up for the language exchange. So there are many options to frame a solution in a way that it's related to the problem, to the shared value, and to people's daily lives. And right now I'm thinking I messed up on the time management. So this
you have about 6-7 more minutes.
Yeah.
So you can maybe
so
go
I'm
here to action plan.
I just have to improvise a little bit. So I will just move to crisis response, because the part that I'm omitting is the plan. My plan for this presentation is apparently wasn't that good in terms of time management. But this presentation will be available to you, and those are actually very simple concepts on how to create a comms plan, and it ends with the calendar. What's on Monday, what's on Thursday, what's on Saturday. There are some tips that you can use in this place. So I just moved to the crisis response. So to the situations when we are facing a crisis, something happens, and we have to do something about it. But we have to remember that not every situation is not a crisis. When there's lots of negative comments on social media, that's not necessarily a crisis. A critical local article, it's not a crisis. It's just a situation that it's happened. Tense moments at the public meeting. Someone comes and asks difficult questions. This is not a crisis. These are just examples of normal situations. And in many of those situations, your job is just to stay calm and keep up the good work. And not necessarily ignore, but keep stay on the track and what you are already doing. And this seems like a trivial observation, but you couldn't believe the number of moments in many even advanced organizations when something that is not a crisis because of the reaction of the organization became a crisis, because it's very easy to turn a problem, a challenge into crisis, and reacting too quickly can amplify the problem. That's just a simple rule. And if you're not sure if you should do something about, or is this a crisis, just ask yourself this very simple questions. Is this really affecting many people, or this is just few loud voices that try to distract you from your work? Think of, if I react to that, will this be helpful, or just give it more attention? So would you just fuel the negative narrative about your work? And then if it touches the safety of people or core values, it might be a crisis that you have to deal with, but those are not the very the situations that happen very often. So my basic advice is to not escalate. Just keep it down. Continue your regular communication and focus on your main audiences. So don't focus on your opponents. And remember that not every criticism needs a response. But yes, so there are situations when you have to respond. You have to respond when people's safety or dignity is threatened, when the misinformation is spreading widely. Widely is a key word here. And when you think that the trust to your institution, to your program, is at stake. And in those cases, just be calm, be factual, be short and clear. Don't go much into details. Use this opportunity to show what you're doing about the issue, and avoid emotions, avoid being defensive, because the goal in the crisis situation is practically always to just stop the crisis, not to win an argument, not to be right, but to be able to get back on track and restore the trust and clarity. Just remember who makes the decisions and who speaks. You have to know that. You have to know your channels, and for the response, use the one you have most control on. Website. Facebook is an example when things can get out of hand with comments, for example. Be simple as much as possible, and also coordinate with your allies, because sometimes you do everything right and your ally says something and fuels the crisis all of a sudden. So be sure that you coordinate with them and you have the capacity to coordinate with them. To summarize this very brief introduction to strategic comms, it's all about people. It's not about anything else. It's about people and building relations with them. And if you think about the communications like that, you just mobilize, engage allies, and you move the neutrals. This is the end. This might be the end of your comms goals. And don't waste your energy on opponents. You need to win common sense. The middle is where the win happens. Good message has 3 parts: shared values, problem, solution. It's not about being right. It's not about arguments. It's about framing the situation, the topic in a way that makes people care, and shared values, problem, solution framework is the best way to do it. Know who is your Marek, who is your neutral. Tell a clear story, plan your communication, and stay calm in difficult moments. And that's it from me.
Thank you so much. We have a few minutes for any questions. Would anyone like to ask any questions? You can either raise your hand, you can write your questions in the chat. We've got just a few minutes left before we go into our closing. We have a lot of information that we all just learned. It's a lot to take in, so I hope that some people have maybe formulated some things that they're curious about or want clarification on. We'd love to hear from you.
It's not really a question, but maybe one thing I've noticed in the LiBri project when I visited, so just to remind you quickly about the LiBri project, it's the project where we support cities in establishing integration strategies for migrants, thanks to the libraries, local communities, and NGO. And when we visited the cities, we noticed many migrants didn't know about the library at all. And I also noticed that sometimes the library or the NGO partners were not using the existing channel of communication. And that's also one learning we've made in the LiBri project, like to check what type of communication channels already exist and how you can build upon them to share about your initiatives. That will be maybe one of the learnings we had from the project. So I don't know, Bodan, if you have like any tips on this. So
Yeah, thank you. The example that you shared is I think very in line with what I'm saying, but because let's imagine we have a web page, we have a Facebook fan page, we have a newsletter, we have all of that, and we spend lots of time on preparing the content for those those channels. But in your examples, the new residents, the people, the migrants, they're not using that necessarily. They will never learn about your activities from that. I wasn't talking too much about communicating with this particular group, but today. But I can in this framework I would think of them as neutrals. So they are not engaged, so they are engaged in many things, but not necessarily your program. So the main tip here from me would be to go out to them, like find where they are. Not your existing channels are not necessarily the best ones to communicate with them, because they won't come there. They don't have time. They don't have knowledge. They don't have. It's not a natural thing to wake up and think what's going on in my library today. Like, you have to find out. They have their own groups, they have their own communication channels, they have their own WhatsApp, Signal, whatever, depending on the context. They are already communicating somewhere and they have access to information, and you have to proactively search that these channels and create them. So in that sense, I would describe them as neutrals, so not yet engaged in your work. And these concepts from my presentation, again, this is all going to be available to you
thank you.
To find out. Yeah.
Well, thank you. We're at the end of our time, so unless there's any other pressing questions, I'm going to go ahead and share with. Sorry about that. My mic was muted. Excuse me. I'm here. So as I was saying, thank you so much. I've shared with you in the chat the feedback form. We really appreciate you taking the time to share your feedback that will inform the rest of our remaining series. And we'll be sharing with you right now the promotional material so that you can register for our next webinar on the topic of advocacy. So it's a little bit of a follow-up to what was done today, but now more specifically aligned to this topic of advocacy, but it's the same kind of format. And we'll be having a new presenter with us next week. Also helped with the FRSI for help organizing these events. After that, there'll be one on March 19th on the topic of fundraising, and on the 23rd, again, a follow-up on fundraising.
I would just like to add that all these webinars are part of the LiBri project. So every time the twist will be a bit more about how to implement local strategies, and especially in the concept of immigration. So that's why today we spoke about this very specific case study. So we will give very general advice, but always with the case study linked to our project.
Excellent. And here is the link right now for you to access the toolkits. If you have not yet downloaded the LiBri project's toolkits, they are incredible resources that give detailed information about best practices, tips and tricks for providing services in libraries for people in a migration situation. There's lesson plans, there's so much there. So please go ahead and check it out if you have not yet downloaded it. Continuing on, I would also love to invite you, if you have not yet joined our LinkedIn group, please do. Here's the link. On our LinkedIn Community of Practice site, you can find tons of resources. You can find links and registration links to our next webinars. You can connect to other librarians. It's a great place to meet others. And finally, to conclude, I would like to also share with you our LiBri Linktree, which gives you access to all of our previous webinars that have been recorded and are available on YouTube. And if you have any questions, you want to reach out, I'll go ahead and add my email into the chat. And thank you again for being here. It was a delight.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bodan, for joining, and hopefully see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you again.